Welcome to the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Zamperin. If it's making news in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara, across Canada or around the world, you'll find it right here on Newsmakers. A member of Parliament from Hamilton has introduced a private member's bill in the House of Commons. It's being called a groundbreaking amendment to the Divorce Act. Joining me today is Hamilton Mountain Liberal MP Lisa Hepfner. Lisa, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Rick.
So this is the Keeping Children Safe Act. Tell us about this.
Correct. Okay, so 2024, I was Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Women and Gender Equality. And so that was my role, was to look at issues. And National Association of Women and the Law, really well-known women's organization in Ottawa, had brought to me this problem that was happening in family courts. And I met with a whole bunch of victims, women who hadn't seen their children for years, children who had been ripped away from their preferred parent and forced into weird, bizarre therapies. And the bottom line was no one was listening to these kids. And the divorce process had been reduced to children being treated like property that have to be split equally in a divorce. That was it. Regardless of the circumstances, judges in divorce court were going to try and give kids access to both parents. Doesn't matter any allegations. I was horrified by these stories. Like they were stark, terrible stories. I brought all of these victims to Status of Women Committee, where I sat at the time. We were studying coercive control. And to me, this whole story was people maintaining their coercive control after the divorce. So they were using children to maintain their control over their ex-partner. So I thought it really fit this study. So I brought them all to committee. They all told their stories. All the MPs were horrified by this. So it's been sort of growing among the knowledge among our caucus that this is happening, and our parliament, that this is happening across the country increasingly. And then this session of Parliament, 45th session of Parliament, I don't know if you know how the order of precedence for private members' bills is established.
We're going to get into that.
It's like a lottery.
Yeah.
So there's 343 MPs, they pull every name out of, it's probably not a hat, but right. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm number 4.
Okay.
Which means I had to come up with a private members' bill, and the first thing I said was, wow, I can do more for these victims than putting their stories on the official record. I can actually do something about this, and I can change it. And so I went back to Noel, and we talked about it. They already had an amendment to the Divorce Act ready to go. I took that, and I spent the whole summer with some divorce lawyer friends, and we parsed through it. We went through the Divorce Act page by page. Crazy stuff that is still in that act. And we made a ton of amendments. So they're drastic amendments. And it spells out for judges, children are not property to be split equally. And you have to listen to the children. You have to give the children an opportunity to express themselves without fear that those stories are going to get back to one or both parents, because the kids have that fear. We have to give kids an opportunity to really tell us what's going on in their homes. We have to investigate that, not just decide, okay, you know, it's about parents' rights. It's not about parents' rights. It's about what's best for the children. And that's what should be the role of the divorce court.
So the Keeping Children Safe Act will give the children in this process a voice to potentially allow them to at least give their input on which parent they might want to live with more permanently or more of the time. Is that basically, in a nutshell, how it kind of is going to work?
It'll give children a voice. So not necessarily to that detail, but if there's something going on in that home and the children want to express, if they feel intimidated by one parent, they should be able to express that. If they have only had one parent really do any of the caring for them throughout their lives, should that really change after divorce? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be the expert on those things, but I want the courts to look at these situations more carefully and not put children into situations of danger. I have had so many victims come forward to me since I presented this legislation. I can't talk to them all. There's a 15-year-old girl who her father's going on trial next year for sexually assaulting her. She's going to be with me in Ottawa next week when we have second half of second reading. She's like, you know, what happened to her wouldn't have happened if this legislation had been in place. What happens is, you know, if there's an allegation of even sexual assault like happened in her case, the judge doesn't even look at it. The one parent will say, oh no, I'm just being alienated. These are just stories planted by the other parent. So they claim parental alienation, and it's become like a trump card in divorce court, where judges will immediately, I won't say immediately, judges will reverse custody. And the preferred parent will not see their child sometimes for years.
It's pretty scary. So let's get into not necessarily the nitty-gritty, but more or less how these private member bills work. So how does it work? You're into the second half of second reading.
Yeah, so you've probably heard that you have 3 readings of a bill before it comes law. And honestly, I'm learning all of this as it comes too. So because I'm number 4 on the order of precedence, I had to give first reading of this bill basically right when Parliament started back in September. First reading was me standing up in Parliament. I had about a 2-minute speech on what this legislation is all about. It's all available on ourcommons.ca. So if you're ever interested, you can go back and look at all these speeches. And that meant the bill was considered tabled and first reading was done. Second reading started with the first hour, I think in November. I'm not sure of the date. And in that case, I had I think, 20-minute speech about this legislation, why it was necessary, all of the people I've talked to who have been affected by the way the divorce courts are being run. And then we had debate with other members of Parliament. And so that was interesting. I responded to the debate. Second hour of second reading is coming up next week, January 28th. So we're going to have a news conference. There's 300 women's organizations lining up, excited about this legislation because they all have victims who have been affected by this. We, about a week after second reading, which is that second hour of debate that I spoke about, the vote will be next week, or the week after.
Okay. So we're into early February.
I guess so.
Thereabouts,
yeah, that makes sense. 28 to the following week. That'll be the vote. If it passes, and I've been really working with all of the opposition members and bringing these stories to them and spreading the word, I know my government will support it. It'll go to committee. And so second reading will be done. It'll go to committee. Committees will parse it line by line. There'll be a lot of amendments introduced by all different parties that, some of them I'm sure I won't be okay with because they'll change the intent of the bill. Once it gets through the committee, it'll go to the Senate at some point. It has to go through a whole Senate process. I'll need to find a sponsor in the Senate, so I've been really working closely with a lot of different senators. I haven't found a specific sponsor yet, but I've been talking to lots of different senators who are interested. The Senate might suggest some amendments. Everybody will, both in the Senate and the committee process, will be listening to stakeholders also. It's not just the legislation. You'll bring in all of the experts, all of the people who have been affected, and you'll hear all of the testimony. So it's really like a mini court process when you're in committee.
Yeah.
Senate process is finished. It comes back to the House for third reading, and if it passes, it becomes law. And massive change, as you mentioned, to our Divorce Act.
That's amazing. So when conversing with members of the opposition, because you need at least, I think it's 1 or 2 more votes to pass this, what's that like? And are they receptive to this kind of change?
Well, I am a person who, I feel that my job is about building relationships, like a big part of my job. And that doesn't just mean with, my constituents or my stakeholders or my colleagues. It really does mean making friends across the aisle and really getting to know people in the House of Commons. And so, yes, I think I've made a lot of friends across the aisle, and so I can really sit down with them and talk to them. Some of them served on Status of Women Committee with me, so they know the issues. They've heard these voices already. Larry Brock is the conservative critic. I understand they will probably support this bill to go to committee. I think everybody wants to make their own tweaks and amendments to it, but I'm pretty sure they will support. But it's really about, so I've talked to Larry Brock, I've talked to the NDP, I've talked to Elizabeth May, I've explained this bill to them. It's hard to get confirmation on which way people are going to vote, one way or the other. And
is that because they don't want to show their cards, or?
Well, and they have a whip, right? So they want to make sure they're all on one team when they vote. So I don't have full confirmation, but I'm pretty sure we'll pass second reading. We'll get it to committee.
Yeah, this is where the politics comes in, right? Like there's so many inner workings in terms of getting deals done, I guess.
Really, but it's about making relationships and having conversations and really getting things done for Canadians.
Is this your first private member's bill?
Yes. When I was parliamentary secretary, you're taken out of the order of precedence. You're not allowed to present a private member's bill. So it was my first kind of opportunity, and oh wow, what an experience. It's so valuable. I feel like it's a real contribution to Canada.
Yeah, and certainly you must have a great sense of pride, not only that this is your first private member's bill, but the impact that it could potentially have.
Well, so many people coming forward, like so many people like with tears in their eyes talking to me about how important this is and how much this means to them. Like it's so widespread, from the academic community to the domestic abuse community to just individual victims reaching out.
Wow. What do you think is going to be the biggest difference or biggest impact at the end of the day if it does eventually get passed?
I think it's just listening to the children, because right now the courts are not listening to the children. And every child that we heard from said the same thing. I wrote a letter. I told the judge what was going on. Nobody listened.
Wow. Let's get to some other issues if we can.
Absolutely.
Greenland seems to be the hot topic at the moment. Things have changed over the last number of days with the World Economic Forum and Mark Carney's speech that we can get into as well. What do you make of this whole situation in terms of the United States wanting to protect the Arctic and beef up security, Canada's role in that, what NATO has done? At first blush, listening to all the voices and seeing all the main players, give their take. What's your take on it?
You may not know, but I just returned from Washington, D.C. late last night. So it was my first trip to the U.S. Capitol. It was with a parliamentary association, Canada-U.S. I sit on the executive. And it was a trip really for a transportation border summit, but we also spent a day talking to Congress people, so people elected to the U.S. Congress. And I'm told by the association that we had overwhelming crush of U.S. congresspeople that wanted to meet with us and talk with us. So much so that our delegation had to be split in two at some part of the day so that we could go meet with other congresspeople. And I can't really get into the details of those conversations. Sure. They're private, but I can tell you that the feeling I got overall was that the Americans are concerned about that our relationship has been damaged, right. And they want to look for ways to repair it. Most of the members I spoke with were Republicans, but they understood that their constituents were being affected by these tariffs. Mm-hmm. I would say it's an unpredictable time.
It certainly is. Was the meeting... Was it positive in nature?
Absolutely. Okay. They were all very positive in nature. Yeah, very positive. They really wanted to listen, to hear our concerns. They really wanted to know what they could do to improve this relationship. Mm-hmm. So really, really interesting conversations. Yeah. And I think it's, like I said, it's important to make relationships across the aisle. It's also important to build those relationships across the border. We're a steel town still to this day. We have a lot of people who rely on the steel industry. I've been working really hard with all of the players since those tariffs came into effect. And I think it can only help if I continue to build relationships with, U.S. partners. Sure. Who, understand one-on-one, like really one-on-one conversations are really important, I think. It's not the same as being on TV or being in public. When you're sitting down one-on-one, really building relationships, I think you can get somewhere.
Yeah. In terms of the Hamilton-based steel companies, they've been hit with these tariffs for several months now. What are you hearing from them? Are they frustrated at the pace of these tariffs not being lifted? Are they doing as best as they can? How would you describe how they're doing?
It's been a tough time. Yeah. Like, no one's going to deny that, absolutely. But our government has been there every day. Every time I talk to Ron Bedard at Dofasco, he's like, oh, yeah, I just got off the phone with the Prime Minister. And we have brought all of the things, all of the tariff relief that they have asked for. So I know that they're supportive, and they know that the government is supportive. We will continue to have a steel industry in this country, and our government is one of their top priorities to ensure that steel continues to be produced in Canada. We can't build a big nation strong without Canadian steel. We need to have a steel industry to maintain our status as a G7 nation. It's really important to the whole country, and Hamilton is the place that we do it. So I don't know if it'll ever be the same, and that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So the relationship has disintegrated in some ways. It'll get back, it'll get better. Everyone I talked to was sure of that. But I don't think it'll ever really be the same.
The way it was.
And it's the same with the steel industry. Like it was comfortable before. It was this cross-border integration, auto industry, I'd say the same. And now everyone's got to try and figure out a new way to do things. But we are determined that it will be done.
Regarding the auto industry, the EV deal with China, was that just you got to give up something to get something, or what do you make of what we're doing in that regard?
I would look to the Prime Minister's speech on that, right? We can't depend on having the elephant south of the border to protect us all the time. We need to diversify our markets. I mean, the U.S. also has deals with China. Like, everybody's making deals with China. We have to do what's best for our country and our economy. And I think resoundingly Canadians agree.
Prime Minister Mark Carney's speech at the World Economic Forum has made waves in terms of the positivity, the impact, the thought behind it.
It was so good.
It was amazing.
It was so good.
I know I have to be unbiased, but I was a proud Canadian in that moment.
Right. That's exactly how I felt. Like, tear.
Right. So do you think even though U.S. President Donald Trump followed the next day with basically saying that Canada only exists because we allow it to, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, but is this relationship repairable?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. But it'll always be a different relationship, I think.
Right.
I will say this about, I met with the Ontario representative to Washington while I was there. And he is still, to this day, dealing with repercussions from the Ontario ad quoting Ronald Reagan.
Right.
And when people ask him why Ontario did that, he says, because you're not saying it. Somebody has to stand up and say it.
Interesting.
I read somewhere that Republican and Democrat members of Congress are sharing the text of that speech among each other quietly. Like, what does this mean? I think it's important. I think Mark Carney said what everyone was thinking, and he said it so eloquently, and I think it's because he wrote it himself, and he said it from the heart, and it's truly what he knows and believes. This is someone who's been governor of 2 national banks, someone who really has the credentials and the knowledge to weather the storm, and he's saying what the world is thinking, and I think that appreciation globally showed.
A big part of that speech was about the middle powers, or not the superpowers of our world, but the middle powers, forging alliances, building partnerships. Are we going to see more of that?
Absolutely. And I don't have the details on my head, how many different countries. I mean, I get the emails. It goes in one ear and one out. I'd have to look at it. But we're making deals with all kinds of countries all over the world. And that's what we have to do. We have to diversify. We have to, maintain our Canadianness.
CUSMA negotiations continue. 2 of the elements that are within that, the Online Streaming Act, the Online News Act, is the government, the Liberal government, the Carney government, supportive of those 2 elements, making those outside forces, if you will, pay their fair share?
Well, I mean, I was on Heritage Committee. I worked intimately with both of those bills. I explained the committee process. So when those bills came to Heritage Committee, I went through them line by line. I left journalism to go fight for journalism at Parliament Hill through those legislation. I asked about it, too, when I was south of the border, because it's caused some consternation, right? They don't want their digital giants to pay their fair share. They don't care about maintaining Canadian culture and identity, and we're curtailing their profits as far as they're concerned. I had Facebook and Google come to committee, and basically, they don't want to follow. They don't want us to mess with their algorithms. They don't want the government control. And so, and Canadians want those services. They want those, they want Facebook and Google.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to find the balance. I don't know where we'll end up, but we have to maintain journalism. We need journalism in this country. People need to hear their own stories. We need reporters out on the streets. I always tell the story. I watched the decline of journalism over my 20-plus year career here in Hamilton. When I started as a reporter at the Hamilton Spectator, we had no cell phones. I had a walkie-talkie to get in touch with the camera guy. I had a pocket full of quarters to call back to the newsroom if I had to, but you were on your own. Right? And so all of that changed little by little throughout my career. When I started at The Spectator, I think there were 400 reporters in that newsroom on Frid Street. Now, how many are there? And it's the same here too, like dozens and dozens of reporters. And what that meant was everyone was out in the community talking to people, covering the courts, covering City Hall, covering everything. We covered school board meetings back in those days.
I've gone to a few of them.
And there were so many reporters working on stories. You had to make sure your story was really, really good, or it wouldn't even make it into the paper.
Right.
So the quality was really high.
Yeah.
And I don't think there are enough reporters left to be able to produce what we had back then. So, like the Prime Minister said, nostalgia is not a strategy.
Right.
So what does it look like in the future? We still need Canadians to tell Canadian stories. And we need and at this point, right now, they need government support.
Yeah. So in regards to those two pieces of legislation, is that a line that is going to be drawn in the sand, or how fiercely are we going to go after those companies to say, listen, you got to pay your fair share?
Well, I don't have any insight right now, although I do chair I'm the chair of Heritage Committee now. That's my current role in Parliament. So if any other legislation comes forward, it will come to me, and I can tell you I will fight fiercely for it. I believe, there's always this debate about whether government should support journalism, right? I think we're in a moment where we have to, a little bit, right? Until the model has worked out. And I don't have all the answers. When I did my master's degree at McMaster, that was my thesis, was, what's the future of journalism? What can we do with this? And I don't have all the answers, but I'm determined to work it out.
We talked briefly about tariffs. What are you hearing from, aside from the steel companies, what are you hearing from Hamilton businesses about how they're coping?
I don't know. I think it's more widespread. It's the uncertainty, right? People don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And when people are uncertain, they don't spend money. And then the economy as a whole suffers. And so I think that's the most difficult right now, is that it's perilous. People don't know if their jobs are safe. People don't know if, they should take a vacation. And that affects your mental health too, right? And so that also has repercussions for society.
In regards to future goals, aside from the Keeping Children Safe Act, what is that? What's on your itinerary? Okay,
so I have another piece of legislation. So the Senate often comes up with the senators will come up with their own legislation, and they need a sponsor in the House of Commons. And so I am sponsoring another very exciting piece of legislation from Senator Danielle Henkel. If you know Quebec and you know Quebec skincare products, you know very well who Danielle Henkel is. She's fabulous woman who just appointed to the Senate at 70 years old, so she only has 5 years to serve, and she's determined to make every single minute count. Nice. Her bill is about creating a national framework for women's health, and this will help address the long-standing problem that we haven't invested in understanding women's bodies. We don't know, like all of the illnesses that primarily affect women, we're really behind on understanding them and being able to treat them. And so this is a first step on saying we need to really rethink our healthcare system and really understand how, things that affect women and why they are affected.
Wow. So what's the time frame on this? Is this kind of like years in the making type thing?
Oh, I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
I doubt it. I think it's coming up. Like, I think she has, I think it'll be soon. But and at least it'll go through a long process as well. Like, it has to go through the same process that mine does. Yeah, as long as our parliament can hold out. So that's another thing, right? If the parliament
Minority
ends,
government, right? Yeah.
those bills go away. So I have a particularly want to see our parliament continue and last.
Well, on that note, there have been a couple of Conservative MPs who have crossed the aisle. What did that do to the Liberal Party, apart from, increase the numbers by 2?
Well, it certainly increased the mood in the room. I don't know if you saw the pictures when Chris D'Entremont walked into our caucus meeting that first day, and those cheers were genuine, let me tell you. Chris is a great guy. I mean, we know each other across the aisle, too, and he's a great guy. So, yeah, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel, we hear out in the world, when I'm on the streets, that people really like what our Prime Minister is doing. He's the man for the moment. And that's what's happening. I think he's speaking more to a greater section of members. His ideas and his vision, they're more approachable for more Canadians, I would say.
Has the Prime Minister surprised you in a sense? Because he's not a career politician, but he seems to be doing, according to many Canadians, a really nice job.
Am I surprised by that?
Yeah.
I think he's got a world of experience, and he is using all of that, and he knows what he wants to do. So he hasn't spent all of his time as an elected politician, but he spent a lot of time around them, right? Yeah. So it's not like he doesn't understand the system or understand the process. And I think he was very strategic and thoughtful by how he approached. I mean, I think we were trying to recruit him for years before he stepped up to run for leader. So I think he's, and this is the time, and he's seizing the moment. He really is seizing the moment.
Yeah.
And Davos proves that.
Yeah, absolutely. Question out of left field.
No.
Your former boss, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, is with Katy Perry. Is this being talked about in caucus? Is it a cool note? What are your thoughts?
It's a cool note. I think it's genuine. I think they're really in love.
Do you see wedding bells in the future, potentially? And would you be invited?
I don't know. Okay, my question is, I saw that shot of him winking, because he was speaking at Davos too, right?
Correct,
and she was there.
Right.
And then, but I have no idea what he said. All I know is that apparently he and Katy Perry were winking at each other.
Okay.
But then the shots were like, did that really happen in synchronization? Like, I don't trust
it seemed like
it,
the
right?
line of sight was a little off. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that was real. But I think it's real. It's cool and good for him. I think he likes that he's not the center of attention. Like, she's the big star, and he's the arm candy. Yeah,
it's a pretty cool story. What's your message to Hamiltonians?
My message to Hamiltonians is, now you've got me.
There's so much to say.
I know. There's so much to say. I would say these are different times. Yeah. Everyone's just shaking their head walking down the street. But I would say keep your chin up. There is hope. We will continue to be Canadians, and we will continue to be Canada, and we will, fight to the death for that. Heritage Committee is my favorite committee. I'm so glad to be serving as chair, because it's all about Canadian arts and culture and sports. That's the heart of who we are as Canadians. We have to protect that. We have to value that. Look at all of, we have to offer, and the amount of Canadian pride that I see these days, I think makes me feel really good.
We're going to be proud in a couple of weeks' time with the Olympics happening as well.
So exciting.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. Go Canada, go. Lisa, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Rick. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. And you can tip your cap as well to the all-star cast behind the scenes here on the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. If you like today's episode, click the thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave a comment as well. You can catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcasts and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.